For our value shading project with pen, we're going to use one sheet of paper at our sketch pad. So we'll take out one sheet, we can remove the perforation. From there we'll fold the sheet of paper in half. Once it's folded in half, we'll fold it in half one more time to break it into quarters. And what we're going to do is we're going to do our four little exercises of the shading on each side of this sheet of paper. So after you're done, you can tape it down to your board, and every time we're finished, we'll just flip the paper over and start on a different section. To begin our first hatching technique, what we're going to need is we're going to need a pen, a ruler, and I found a paper cup that has a 2-inch diameter, so it's not too small, it's just the right size for the paper. The next thing we'll do is we'll lay out our composition, but first we need to have our image to look at so we know what we're actually trying to shade. So after I lay the work out in pencil first, just so if I make any mistakes I can correct it, you can see I'm going in with the pen and I'm staying with a series of parallel lines. My lines are maybe roughly at a 45-degree angle. Now of course this can change, but for the most part I'm just trying to keep it consistent within this hatching demonstration. So I'm staying with a 45-degree angle line. As you can see, I'm going back over my lines, allowing the density of the value to change as I increase the amount of lines within this one area. And I'm not going to overwork the image, so that's about it. And that's the final image, so that's just the first test. Now that our hatching demonstration is finished, the next thing we're going to do is our cross-hatching. So cross-hatching is when you have a set of parallel lines that go one direction and the other ones overlap, so you almost get a 40 or 90-degree angle to one another. But of course that can vary. You'll see that I'm going to experiment and just play around when I start doing the cross-hatching. So what I'll do is I'm going to flip this image, I'm going to use the opposite side now, and I'll tape the paper back down. Once we taped it down, we're going to use the same process. We just use our paper cup or any round object that you have. As I said, it's about 2-inch diameter. And then I'll use my ruler and pencil just to kind of sketch everything in, just to have my basic groundwork first before I start. Once I have this laid in, I can go in with the pen. Now that I have the drawing laid out, I'm going to begin the cross-hatching process. So I usually like to start in the darker areas and slowly move in. As you can see, I'm moving in a diagonal line and then I'm crossing over that. So I'm going back in and filling areas in multiple times to kind of build up the dark value that I want within the composition. As in most drawings, what you usually do is you work around the drawing. You don't spend all your time in one area because you could run the risk, especially in a pen drawing, of overworking that area. So it's best to kind of jump around and kind of slowly build the drawing up. Now cross-hatching is a drawing style, or rendering style that you see often in comic books and illustrations, whereas we're using pen to render an object and you're going in and trying to create multiple values. Cross-hatching is one of those techniques where you can kind of sneak up on the entire image very slowly, and then eventually you have a completed finished drawing. Now that we have our hatching and cross-hatching technique done, let's fold the paper over and tape it back down and draw our design back on. The squiggle technique is pretty fun. So basically it's just what it sounds like. You're making squiggly lines and you're going to overlap them multiple times to build up your gradient on the object to create your shading. So as you can see, once again, we're kind of working around the image, not starting and finishing in one spot, moving from area to area, slowly sneaking up on the dark values. So you don't want to overwork the value, because once again, if we're working with pen, you can't go back and take it out. So just kind of work around the image. And as you can see, I've gone over the image probably 4 to 5 times. And then by the end, here we are. So we now have 3 examples that we completed. We have our hatching, cross-hatching, and our squiggle. So we'll fold our paper back up and we'll finish with the final square. Draw our cup back out one more time and draw a circle, draw the shadow in, and we're ready to go. Now that we have our drawing done, we're going to basically go in with our stipple technique. So this is using a fine series of dots, just lightly tapping your pen. What you'll notice though as I'm starting to do this, I am going to combine with this technique a little bit of the squiggle technique because I want to try to build the values up in the composition quickly. If I just did the stippling and did tiny dots throughout the whole composition, which some people do, and it's a very fine technique, it can take quite a long time. So what I want to do is I want to build up the value quicker. So I'm going to go in and squiggle some areas, and then I'll use the stippling to go back in and blend the transitions. So ultimately, when you look at the work in the end, it looks like a completely stippled work, but there are areas that I went in and you might say I cheated because I've gone in and I didn't stick to a purist method. But the end result is equally as good and very convincing, and it saves a good amount of time. So if you do try this technique, try to combine both the squiggle technique and the stipple to see if you can build up a nice transition in your values and have a final piece of work. So the final image, as you can see, has both stipple and squiggle. So our project is now finished and we can see the final result. So we'll unfold our paper, revealing our 4 different tests. So we started out and we have our hatching example, cross hatching, squiggle, and our very final is the stipple. So that's the final project.